Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Learn a Trade podcast show. Today, I want to see if I could start off with some Bunn equipment. Um, Pretty much starting off with the Bunn Dual TF DBC with the smart funnel, and we can get into it. This is going to help with anyone that works in the field that may not be familiar with the requirements of an install of the equipment. This will help with the initial setup. This will help you get through the initial setups. What we could start off with is the electrical requirements. As you can see, we have the terminal blocks here. They have a terminal block diagram, which lists the wiring of the terminal block. As you can see here, it's the L1 is black, the neutral is white, your L2 is your red wire, and then down below you have your green for earth ground. Now, this is the electrical setup for the dual voltage units. These units can either be wired for 120 or 208 and 120 and 240 volts AC. And that's single phase, 60 hertz models. And then I'll just go along and read through some of this for you. There is a note here. This electrical service consists of three current carrying conductors, neutral, L1, and L2, and a separate conductor for earth ground. So that's basically just explaining what I just went over. And they also have the wiring diagram next to it for 200, 220, and 240. Those are single phase, but that's just they're not the dual voltage models like over here on the left. And then on the far right, you have your wiring for the 230 volt two wire and the ground. And then I'm just going to scroll down here to the warning. They have an electrical warning for electrical connections must be made as specified above. Failure to follow these instructions can result in personal injury, property damage, property or equipment damage. So that's just a warning because they do require the wiring to be done per code. So that's why, it's also important to always, check your voltage before you plug in and power up a machine. You want to check your voltage with your meter to make sure you're getting the proper voltage. And then I'm going to move down here to plumbing requirements. There's some interesting stuff here. The plumbing requirements, it states that the brewer must be connected to a cold water system with operating pressure between 20 to 90 psi. A shut-off valve should be installed in the line before the brewer. Install a regulator in the line when pressure is greater than 90 psi to reduce it to 50 psi. So that's just like a water regulator. Most cases, I haven't run into that other than working on fountain soda machines and some Slurpee machines. I would need to install a water regulator, 50 psi regulator. that is common with like some of the fountain machines that are out there. But I haven't really run into that with the coffee brewers. But it's possible in other areas and stuff like that. That could be possible. So you would, if you had water pressure, say coming out of the filters at 100 psi um, or higher, you would want to go ahead and put a 50 psi water regulator in line there before going to the machine, just to keep the water pressure at a steady flow rate. Then down here, it's talking about a plumbing hookup, and it's just a note: if a backflow preventer is required by code, a shock arrestor should be installed between the backflow preventer and the brewer. So that's just covering all bases there, saying that if it's per code, there are some locations that their plumbing code is to have backflow preventers on beverage equipment. So in that case, you would want to install that backflow preventer in line before hooking up to the coffee brewer. And the other thing they were talking about here is the shock arrestor. That's to limit any surges. If you have like a unit that's the solenoids slam down hard, um, that shock arrestor will absorb um, that pressure, and it won't affect the water flow to the machine. Right now, we're going to go into the operating controls. These are all of the switches and lights and stuff like that. So let's go through that. And by the way, feel free to take any notes or anything like that, and you can always come back to this podcast and review everything that we're going over here. And let's start with these are going through A through I believe. So let's just go through and then we'll see. I'll probably be going back and forth a couple of times on this. But with the letter A, it's starting with the main on and off switch. That's the main power switch. And that's located right up here where it's underneath the front panel of the coffee brewer, right in the middle. And it's got most of them have a little white tag like that with an arrow pointing down. That switch is directly under that arrow underneath the equipment. And it's hidden like that to try to avoid customers from turning the machine off by mistake, or if a, if a staff member is cleaning the equipment, sometimes they'll hit the power button and not realize it. So it's in a hidden spot down there, and it's identified with that white stamp, that white sticker with the arrow. That's A. And B, you have your batch selector switches. That's right over here. And they're on both sides. Those are the three selector switches that you have. And those selector switches are for the customer to choose which level they're gonna brew the coffee at. So they have a small, medium, and large. The lower one would be your small, medium, and large up top, and that's on both sides. And C, letter C, you have your on-off switch and enable brew to enable the brew. That's these buttons right here, and They're on both sides. So those are your on off buttons in order for the unit to brew. Um, if that is not pressed, no matter how much they hit the brew button, it's not going to brew. So those will have to be turned on, and they have a little light up in the corner, a little green light that'll come on. So let's move down to letter D, the brew switch. That's right next to your on off switch. On this side, it's right here. And then on this side, it's right here. And letter E is it's that symbol, the copyright symbol. It's that letter R. And then it's the hidden switch. Um, Let me show you. That's right up here, right up there in the corner, top right. And that switch is your hidden switch for you to get into the program. Let's see what it says. It says pressing and holding the R switch allows entry to the programming menus. Pressing and releasing the switch steps through each function screen during programming. So a lot of you have seen my other videos, and you've seen me doing calibration, and I often go to the hidden switch to go into the program menu and to scroll through. You can scroll through the menu just by pressing and releasing that hidden switch. And the letter F is for the function screen. This is the display which shows the various functions of the brewer and allows the program to be accomplished, the programming to be accomplished. So that's letter F. That's your screen right there. So that's where everything is going to show up for you, all of your menu readings and stuff like that. So letter G, function screen switches. These are the hidden switches which are used to program the brewer. And that's these switches right here. You have one here, one in the middle, and one on your right. And I'm pretty sure that says dual brewer control. So it's that'll be like a large D saying dual brewer control, and your brew button, that'll be like if you want to lower an amount of ounces or something like that, you'd be able to hit that. It would be like a little minus symbol up there in the corner of the screen, and you can hit that button to lower any values that you want to adjust. And far right one, you usually would use that to adjust any amounts or levels. If you want to raise them up, you would raise them up by hitting that switch. That switch, it'll be like a plus symbol right up in the screen there, and then you just hit that button right underneath the plus. And then this middle button, that's usually your enter button or your done button. So you know, if you did a calibration and you raised the ounces from 20 28 ounces to 30 ounces, and then you would go here and press done, and then it'll move on to the next function. And that was letter G. Now we're down at letter H, the funnel sensing coils. These are used to receive information from the smart funnel handle coffee name and batch name, and also from recipe cards. That's an interesting one. That's these sensors right here. They're on each side. And as you can see, the funnel slides underneath and then it meets up with the funnel handle. And inside that funnel handle, it's also these work off of radio frequencies. So when the machine, when this funnel handle meets this sensor, the two the two combine, they match. When they match up, it'll know that the funnel is in place, and it'll know the the recipe that's installed and everything. So if that funnel's not in place, it'll let you know right up here in the on the screen. Um, or if that sensor is damaged, it won't read that the funnel is in place. So there'll always be an error there, and that would just be a matter of replacing the sensor. Sometimes they do go bad, not often, but you do see them go bad from time to time, and they're on both sides, like I said, and they're working off of radio frequency. So as long as the funnel matches up with it, it's it's going to identify it, and then it'll allow them to go ahead and brew. Um, I remember these from years ago. They used to. I know in a customer I had, it was a Sunoco franchise, um, Sunoco gas station, convenience store type place, and they had these dual units like this, but we had cards like they were talking about down here. The recipe cards. They had recipe cards, and I thought they were so great because it was so much faster to do your calibrations. You didn't have to go into adjusting the ounces and stuff like that. You would just take the recipe card, and then you go into the menu, and then you would go to like calibration, and then it would ask you up here if you had a recipe card, and if you when you press yes, you would take the recipe card, pull the funnel out, then take the recipe card and just tap it on the bottom of that sensor, and you would do that on each side. Um, I'm sorry, you would do that just on. You only have to do it on one side, and then it would adjust. It would calibrate to that recipe automatically, so you wouldn't have to adjust anything. Only time you would have to adjust anything was when you ran into a water flow issue or something like that. But those recipe cards are really nice. I'd like to know if you guys, if you all have that are out there in the field, if you are still working with those recipe cards, let me know in comments. That's kind of interesting. I was always wondering why they went away from that. Okay, now we're down to letter I. Scroll backwards. The upper left corner of the B in Bunn, the B in Bunn can be used to scroll backwards through the function list. So what that's saying is right up here, the letter B in Bunn, right around here is where that hidden button is. And like if you're going through calibration, or you're scrolling through, and you missed a spot, you went past where you wanted to go, you can go here and you can back up. Or if you were like adjusting water levels or something like that, you would be able to hit the back button, and you could go back to like the left side and make your adjustment. Then you can go back here and then go ahead. You won't have to start all over. So now let's get down into initial setup. They start off with a caution. The brewer must be disconnected from the power source throughout the initial setup, except when specified in the instructions. And then they're going through a list here, so we'll go through this list. First, insert any empty funnel into the funnel rails of one of the brew stations. So they're saying, insert your funnel up here, either left side or right side. Either side doesn't matter, whichever you choose. And then place an empty server under the funnel. Next, connect the brewer to the power source. Main on-off switch located in the bottom cover behind the front leg on some brewers. That's that little white stamp area down there where the main switch is. And it must be in the on position. So you turn your main power on. Your water will begin to flow into the water tank, and it will stop when the tank is filled to its capacity. The display will show please wait tank filling. Some of you seen that already on some of the other videos where it says tank filling. Once you start it up, then it it reaches it the proper water level, then it stops filling, shuts off the solenoid valve, and then it'll say heating. Then number 4, it says wait approximately 20 minutes for the water in the tank to heat up to the proper temperature. Display will show ready to brew. The water temperature, it has 3X's here, but usually your water temperature will be between 200 to 205 degrees when tank is at operating temperature. That's what it'll be at. It'll be between 200 to 205. It depends on what the set temperature is. And there was another thing here that, yeah, it says wait approximately 20 minutes. In my opinion, that's a little short. Um, in my experience, it usually takes between 30 minutes or so for those to heat up. So it's not that much, but it heats up in fast enough time. But that initial um, heating usually takes uh, for me between like 30-35 minutes. Okay, now it has a note here. It says brew water temperature is factory set at 205. That's like I mentioned earlier. So it is, they are factory, it says they're factory set for 205. There's some that you'll find that they'll be at 200 and you have to adjust them up while you're in the programming mode. Then it says here refer to temperature selection below. Should the water temperature need to be increased or decreased? When brew when brew water temperature is changed, ready temperature should be increased or decreased accordingly. Okay, so what they're saying is there's two settings when you go into the menu and you go to your temperature settings. It's going to say ready, I believe it's ready temp, and then that'll usually be like around 197, 198. Some machines it's set for 195. but for the most part, you'll see them set at around 198. And then you'll see another section in there where it'll say um, brew temperature, and that's the one that they factory set for 205. It's either set for 205 or it's set for 200. So what they're saying is if you adjust this from like 205 down to 200, then they're saying you should adjust your ready temp too from like probably 198 to 195. Um, in most cases, I I've seen this 205 or 200 get adjusted up to 205, and then they usually leave the ready temp at 198. So it's your preference if you want to adjust both or not. But in here they do say that you should adjust both of them. And then this is a chart here. This chart could be handy. Brew water temp is factory set for 205. Areas of high altitude will require lowering this temperature to prevent boiling. This chart should be used as a guide when readjusting the brew water temperature. So for that brew water temperature, they're offering this chart here. And as you can see, it's got 3 points. It's got the altitude that you're at, the boiling point of water, and recommended water temperature. So, say you're at 500 feet altitude, and they're suggesting that the boiling point is 212.9. And then, so they recommend that you set the water temperature at 200. So, I mean, that makes sense. And like I said, but in most cases on my installs, I usually set that up to 205, only because there's always at 200 there's always issues and complaints with the coffee not staying hot, and a lot of that has to do with the way that the customer maintains their equipment too. So if they don't do like preheats, those shuttles that they use in the on the brewers for the brewers, those each of those shuttles should be preheated. They should brew just water into the shuttles, and then let them sit for between 2 to 4 hours, and then empty them out. Um, and that's the process that Bunn suggests for them to do with their shuttles. But a lot of them they don't they don't maintain that, and they just have to do that when they initially get those shuttles. But they usually don't. They just go ahead and use it right away, and it doesn't over time it doesn't really hold the heat in as it would if they would do the preheat function with it. But besides that, I usually bring that 200 up to 203 or 205, just to keep down the amount of calls later on. At least that way the coffee is hot, and you don't get that much complaints after that. Let's go down to temperature selection. Set temp range 185 to 205. This function allows the operator to set the brew water temperature in the tank. It also sets the hot water faucet dispense temperature. Your set temp is say at 200. So say your set temp is at 200 and you want to adjust it to 205 or 203 or 205. What you would do is you would go here. You see the plus symbol right there? Right underneath the plus symbol, you would hit this hidden button right here on the control pad, the control key, and you would press that to bring that 200 up to 203 or 205. And then you would press your brewer button right down here to say done. And then that would save your set temp. That would input your set temp and save it to the board. So here's the procedure to set the brew temperature. Press and hold upper right hidden switch until the display reads units. Release the switch. Continue to press and release the switch until the display reads set temp, like this right here. You'll see it on that display screen just like that. To adjust the brew temperature, press either the minus key to decrease or the plus key to increase the brew temperature. That's these here, and you would use these buttons to adjust the numbers. And then when you're finished, when you got it set for, say, 203 or 205, press and release the done button right down here to save the new setting. Exit the set temp function and advance to the next function screen. And right there you would go ahead and go to that hidden button, which is on the right side, and you would press that to continue to scroll through to your next function. Another alternative is to press and release the on off switch, either on dual brewers located on the front switch panel to exit the set temp function and return to the main screen. So that they're just saying you can shut off, you can press and release the on off switch on the touchpad, and then it will just revert back to the main screen for you. Now let's move on to the set ready temp. The set ready range is 185 to 203. This is that function where it's set ready. We usually have it set at 195 to 198 in this area. This function allows the operator to set the minimum temperature allowable to start a brew cycle. The range can be from 185 to within 2 degrees of the set temp. So if your set temp is like 200, you can set your ready temp to around 198. That's what they're saying there. The water must be at the set ready temperature or higher for the display to indicate ready to brew. If brew lockout is enabled, the brewing process will not start below this ready temperature. So if your ready temperature is, say, 195, then the ready to brew function won't come up if you have the brew lockout enabled. What that's for is that will lock the unit out. It won't allow it to brew or anything until it reaches 195 exactly. If you have your brew lockout off or disabled, it will it will allow you to brew um, once it reaches like 185. Most cases, you do want to keep your brew lockout on just to prevent anyone from brewing um, too soon. Because if they brew a pot, if they brew a shuttle and it's at like 185, it's possible that the coffee won't be as hot as it should be because it didn't really complete its full heat cycle. And then they have a note here: the upper limit for a set ready temperature is two 2%, 2 degrees Fahrenheit, less than the water temperature. So they went over that already, setting that you can set that ready temp 2 degrees lower than the set temp. And this is what that screen will look like for the set ready. It'll probably say set ready 195, and you can adjust it by hitting the plus button up to 198, say, or something like that. So that's pretty clear. The procedure to set the ready temperature, it's pretty much the same as the set temperature, but we'll go through it. Press and hold the upper right hidden switch until the display reads units. Release the switch. Continue to press and release the switch until the display reads set ready right here. Then when you see this up there in the screen, you'll go ahead and adjust your temperature. And then when finished, press and release done right in the middle to save the new setting. Exit the set ready function and advance to the next function screen. And that's by hitting that upper right hidden button right underneath the R on the touchpads. And then here they go into brewing coffee. This is just to give you a order of operation for how the system brews the coffee. Insert a Bunn filter into the smart funnel. That's the white coffee filters. If a grinder is not used to obtain coffee grounds, pour the proper amount of fresh coffee grounds into the funnel and level by gently shaking. Slide the funnel into the funnel rails and select the batch size. Proceed to step 5. So this is if you may have seen them before. There's some coffee brewers that are connected to a coffee grinder, and they have like one cable that connects them. So what the customers do is they're able to hit, like if they were gonna do a small batch, they would hit small on the and this is gonna go through that in a few minutes here, but I'm just gonna explain it in my words. If you hit the coffee grinder and you hit small batch, it'll grind the coffee grounds for exactly that amount of coffee that's needed for that size that you just chose. So when it does that, that's when those units are connected to a coffee grinder. If they're not connected to a coffee grinder, you don't have to worry about that part, but you would just get their they probably would have either 2.5 ounce bags, or they'll have some of them will have 3 to 5 ounce bags of coffee that's already ground up. And all you have to do is just open one of those packs and pour it into the funnel, and then slide your funnel into the funnel rails, and then you'll be ready to brew. Um, Down here, it's talking about if it has a grinder. It's telling you what to do if you come across a brewer that does have a grinder. If a G9 2T DBC or MHG grinder is used with a compatible smart funnel, select the desired batch size, small, medium, or large, on the grinder. Grind the selected amount of fresh coffee into Grind the selected amount of fresh coffee into the funnel and level grounds by gently shaking. It is not necessary to select a size on the brewer. And that's saying that it's not necessary to select the size on the brewer because you just press the size on the grinder and they're interlinked. So it already knows the batch that is going to go through. So if you had a selected a small batch and it ground a small batch for you, then you put the funnel in and then you would hit brew, and then it would just automatically brew a small batch. And then it's telling you here the rest of the procedure to place the empty server under the funnel. Then the enable brew switch must be on. That's the on off switch there. Momentarily press and release the brew switch if the brewer has the funnel lock option. And if it is activated, once the brew cycle has been started, the funnel is locked in place. There may be certain situations in which the brew cycle will not begin when brew switch is pressed. Um, that part there, where they're talking about the brew lock, that's a safety mechanism. There's a solenoid on the top of the unit, inside the top of the unit, that has a shaft that shoots down. The solenoid activates and then it shoots this shaft, this little round shaft down. Once the funnel is placed in and the brew button is hit, that shaft will shoot down and it'll lock that funnel, so that someone that's not familiar with the machine might think that they can pull the funnel out and empty the wet grounds out. It keeps them from being able to do that while it's brewing, because it happens from time to time. So that's a good safety mechanism that they have on there. So someone, if the coffee is brewing, someone can't just come up and pull that funnel out and then hot water just spray all over and um, burn somebody or something. So that's a good safety mechanism, but that's what they're talking about. Um, let's see. Then they're talking about the brew temperature too low. Wait until heated and cancel the brew lockout option. Okay, so right there, if the temperature is too low, then more than likely there's an issue with um, the temperatures that were set in there. So in that case, you could stop the brew cycle by hitting your enable brew button, that on off button. You can hit that, and then it'll stop brewing, and then you can figure out, what the temperature issue is. If your funnel is not in place, if the funnel's not in place right in the funnel rails, it'll say funnel detect. It'll give you like an error, funnel not detected, and then all you have to do is just pull the funnel out, slide it back in, and then it should read again. If it doesn't, then more than likely those sensors that I showed you earlier, um, it could be that one of those sensors is bad. So that's a possibility too. or it could be that the funnel fell. It may have fell, hit the ground, and it may have damaged the sensor inside of the funnel handle. So those possibilities are there too. So definitely want to check your funnel handle, make sure there's no cracks or anything like that. And other than that, usually it's just that it's just not lined up right, and you just have to pull it out, slide it back in, and then it should be good. And then they're going into, let's see, number 7. If none of the above messages are displayed, the display will read now brewing and the time remaining in the brew cycle. Allow arrows will point to the side which is brewing. So if you're brewing on your left side, you're going to see like a scroll, you're going to see like 3 or 4 arrows scrolling to your um, to your left hand side. Say you're brewing on the left, and you're going to see like 3 or 4 arrows scrolling to your left, letting you know that that's the side that's brewing. And each side does that. So if you got both of them brewing, you'll see the left side arrows go, and then you'll see the right side arrows go. That's what that's describing. Number 8, it says follow the brew. Following the brew will be a countdown of dripping time, which shows the time remaining until the funnel lock will release. Then you can discard the grounds and the filter only after visible dripping has stopped. So that's where, after your coffee has brewed and everything's good, it's gonna say dripping or drip time, and that's usually at around a minute and 30 seconds. On the brewer. You'll see that countdown, and then after that minute and 30 seconds, that's when that brew lock is gonna pull back up. That little shaft will just pull back up, and then you'll be able to pull out the funnel. And then next, they have like 7 steps, just advising on cleaning methods of the brewer. Um, it says the use of a damp cloth rinsed in any mild, non abrasive liquid detergent is recommended for cleaning all surfaces on the Bunn equipment. Do not clean this equipment with a water jet device. Check and clean each spray head. The spray head holes must always remain open. Then there's a note: any buildup on the spray head and fitting may restrict water flow and impact your coffee brewing. For consistently great coffee, clean spray heads and fittings weekly with spray head cleaning tool. And then there's a part number for that cleaning tool. And if you're taking notes, I'm going to give you the part number for that cleaning tool, because you can order that cleaning tool through Parts Town, or you might be able to order it direct through Bunn. But it's called the spray head cleaning tool, and the part number is 38227.0000. So that's something that's good that you can take down, because that's handy. It usually comes like with a little hole, so you can put it on your key ring, and then that way you always have it on you. And if they have dirty spray heads, which most of them do, you'll be able to clean up those spray heads. And there's times where some of these areas have hard water, so you'll want to use that cleaning tool to clean off that hard water off of from around the holes. And now number 3, insert the long end of the spray head cleaning tool into the spray head fittings and rotate several times to remove any mineral deposits from the fitting. And that's that little hole that the water sprays out, that the spray head uh, spins onto or screws onto. That little hole, you'll use the long end of that of the spray head cleaning tool, and you just put it up the hole and turn it a couple of times, and then that's it. You just clean that out of any deposits or anything. And number four is insert the short end of the spray head tool into the bypass fittings and rotate several times to remove mineral deposits. And that's the other hole, the bypass. I've showed that in some of my other videos, but the bypass hole, that also gets water buildup in there, and you can take the short end of that and stick it up there, and then just twist it a couple of times, and then it'll be fine. Then five, remove spray heads from Brewer. Disassemble by removing the seal. Now, these are speaking on a different type of spray head. There's some spray heads that have a seal and there's some that don't. So it depends on which one you're using. But the ones that have a seal, you'll obviously be able to see that it has a seal, and you'll want to disassemble it, clean it up, and then put a new seal on, or put the same seal on if it's not damaged or anything. And then it says use the pointed end of the spray head cleaning tool to remove the mineral deposits from the spray head holes. So the spray heads that have the holes, they you'll be able to see those once you take the spray head off, and then you just want to clean around each of those holes with the small end of that cleaning tool. And then it says reassemble the spray heads and reattach. Spray heads only needs to be hand tightened. So you really don't have to crank down on those spray heads. There's many times that people will really twist those on, and sometimes they're impossible to get off once they're seated in there. So you really don't need a tool to crank down on that. You just get them hand tight, and that's good enough. And and then down below, it just says to refer to the programming manual on Bunnomatic website, which is www.bunn.com, for calibration routine to verify spray head flow rate. And before I conclude, I just want to mention too, with these spray heads, um, for those that don't know, there's when it comes to Bunn, there's two types. There's a spray head for the dual DBC, and there's a spray head for their CWTF series of brewers. So just to let you know, I'm not sure on the full number, but a lot of times some customers will have a old CWTF brewer, and they may have lost the spray head for the dual DBC brewer, so they go to the CWTF and they take the spray head from that, and then they'll put it on the dual DBC brewer. And when they do that, that's going to affect the brew cycle of the of the machine, of the dual machine, because those are two different um, part numbers and they're configured differently. They still fit each other. You can easily mistake one for another, but the main thing is for the DBC spray heads, that part number ends in nine with a 9-8. On the CWTF spray heads, that part number ends with a 7-8, and the part number is engraved in the spray head itself, so you'll be able to see it. But that's just another tip for you, because I don't know if many people know about that, but that does cause an effect with how the brewer will function, and it goes vice versa. The DBC spray heads will affect the CWTF uh, brew function also. So you can't switch them. You need to have that the proper spray head for it. So uh, that's something to remember. And that's all I got for now, everyone. I hope this was informative and helpful. I hope those that are, in the field, I hope you're able to get some good notes out of it, and let me know in comments if you want to verify anything that I went over, and we can chat about it. I appreciate you guys' support. I appreciate you watching the videos, and I plan to do more videos like this to kind of give more of detailed information on the equipment that we work on, and I look forward to it. So thanks everybody for watching. I look forward to doing another one, and I hope you'll tune in. Thank you. Stay blessed.